Welcome to the Modise Network. On the show, the power cuts experienced this week are devastating to the economy and require an emergency solution to the Eskom crisis. BLSA's Bonang Mohale and NUMSA's Majola debate the various options. Later on, the Competition Commission has been empowered by a new law to investigate monopolistic practices in the economy. Commissioner Tembinkosi Bonakele explains the new act and updates us on the health market inquiry. Nationwide power cuts. 3 days after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced moves to unbundle Eskom led to panic and anger as the country was taken by surprise. It led to speculations about sabotage, manipulation or incompetence as people tried to make sense of what was happening to their businesses, their homes and neighborhoods. That, as negative as it is, demonstrates the significance of the power utility on the nation's life. Eskom has a range of critical problems that are a threat to the well-being and stability of the economy. From the huge debt to bloated wage bill to high tariffs and non-payment by communities and municipalities to serious allegations of corruption against executives and contractors. That is the horror story of the energy company that was once in 2003 regarded as #1 in the world. So what happened? And what needs to happen to fix Eskom? To unbundle or not to unbundle? On the Modise Network, I bring you the two dominant but opposing views of the business leadership South Africa and NUMSA. Bonang Mohale is the CEO of BLSA, and NUMSA spokesperson Majola. They are here with me. And we want you to be part of our conversation. You share your comments, your views with us by using the hashtag the Modise Network. And to my guests, welcome. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Here we are, the state of play at Eskom. The debt that is astronomical, the interest rate that is very high, and we are told the wage bill off the charts. What do we do with this situation? What do you know about the debt of Eskom? And if you can tell us a bit more from NUMSA's perspective before I talk to Bonang Mohale about it.
Well, indeed, Tim, for us, we have always been saying that Eskom is in a crisis and that Eskom cannot continue to operate as is. Where we differ with the state is, first of all, on what has caused the crisis at Eskom, and secondly, what needs to be done about the crisis at Eskom. Part of that crisis, of course, is extremely high debt levels caused primarily by several things. We've identified 4 holes that have contributed to Eskom's astronomical debt. One is the extremely high coal costs. In fact, this is something that Eskom itself has acknowledged as being one of its highest cost drivers, much higher than labor, I might add, is the fact that it spends billions on coal. And we as unions have identified that there's a lot of corruption in the monies that Eskom has spent on coal. When you just look at the period between 2008, 2015, for example, year upon year, those coal costs went up by 17%, and yet at that time Eskom was spending less on coal. It was actually ordering less coal. So that tells you that there's corruption there. Secondly, the built overruns, the cost overruns on Eskom's built project are another hole that's causing a massive, it's having a massive impact on Eskom's balance sheet. That again is an example of corruption. Sadly, no companies have been taken to task, not just for the shoddy workmanship that's been done, but also on the fact that the built project has gone on for much longer than it needed to. Thirdly, the IPP project, Government's Renewable Energy Project, which in our view has really had a massive impact on Eskom's balance sheet. In the year 2016 to 2017, for example, IPPs cost Eskom over 9 billion rand because Eskom is forced to buy electricity from IPPs at 2.20 rand. It then sells that electricity at 86 cents to the market. I think everybody will agree that that is a nonsensical business strategy.
And I think there are other points. I'll come back to you on them. I mean, but the interesting part when we talk about the debt of Eskom, that the Mohale is that it was what, for 40 billion 10 years ago, and somehow it moved from 40 to more than 400 billion as we speak. And even at that time when the debt was 40 billion, it employed only 30,000 or thereabouts people. With all the terrible contracts, somehow also found a way of employing 18 or 17,000 more people. Can you tell me a bit more about all of this? That how did it get to where it is now? How could these things all happen at the same time?
Ndate Modise, I couldn't agree more with my sister Pakamile about correctly diagnosing some of what the root cause problems are. I think as South Africans we should hang our heads in shame. Our forebears did not go to struggle to come and squander assets that we have inherited from the apartheid regime. We know that Eskom, when it was chaired by Dr. Ruel Khoza, it had a rating agency higher than sovereign. And in your intro, you say it was amongst the best utilities in the world.
Well, I
so
remember
we should
that
say,
year very well, when it was regarded as the best energy producer
2003,
in the world. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So we need to say, what have we done or have not done to move from being the best in the world to being amongst the worst in the world? And I think to add to the list of the 4 holes, number 1, we have to say, it is the fact that we have embarked on a project of state capture, where we siphon off on average 100 billion a year, every year, for the last 10, 20 years. How many pit latrine toilets we could have built, how many classrooms, how many fee-free education candidates would have put through a higher education institute. The second is the fact that for many years we have suffered from policy flip-flops, especially during the periods Rolihlahla, Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, and now Jacob Zuma. We don't know whether we Arthur or Martha, anything in between. Thirdly, we now run the risk where we send a wrong strategic conversation to the country, that you can have an institution that is 90 years old, employs 48,000 people from 32,000, an EXCO of 8, now an EXCO of almost 20, with debt of 491 billion, which means the debt is permanent. Eskom has no chance of trading themselves out of this hole in this lifetime. Therefore, it needs help. What then do we do as a strategic response? First of all, if you are in a crisis, this is the time where we don't have to be married to party political ideologies. We don't have to be married to whether I'm labor or whether I'm leadership. The only solution that will get us out of this deep hole is to realize that this patient is dying, government must take pain, business must take pain, labor must take pain, civil society must take pain, because we don't want Eskom to fail on our watch, because when Eskom goes down, the whole country goes down.
Right. Now, that's probably what informed the president's decision to some extent, I would like to believe, when he said Eskom needs to be unbundled. And it did not take long, and Labour quickly moved to say no. This is privatization by stealth. Nothing should be done to Eskom. But we're not going to wish away the 490 billion rands or so of debt that is there, and the tariffs that are being increased by more than 15% every year. And of course, the fact that some municipalities and communities are not paying anyway. And people ask, who's going to take responsibility? And of course, the risk is there, as you've just outlined. So, Pagamile, if you can tell me, what do you think we do then? It's an emergency, by any measure.
It's interesting what Comrade Bonang spoke about when he said that we must all take pain. I think when you look at government's solution, this is why for us as Labour we were so opposed. This is not everyone taking pain. This is Labour taking pain. We know very well that this government wants to privatize state-owned entities. That has been on the cards for many, many years. We've heard different ministers, cabinet ministers at different times talking about this is where they're going. So for the president to now claim that, as he did recently when he was responding to Parliament, that this unbundling of Eskom would not result in retrenchments, frankly, that's hogwash, and we don't buy it as Labour. We don't believe that the working class should be the ones that are punished through retrenchments when these changes go through. If people are to take pain, let's start where pain should occur. First of all, we've identified that one of the holes is the cost overruns on the built project. So why are we not, for example, ensuring that those companies that have been responsible for that are held to task? Where are the penalties, for example, for the cost overruns? Why has that not been viewed as a possible solution? Secondly, we know that when they talk about breaking it down into those 3 entities, we have had experience in the past where, for example, we had a company, Rotec Industries now, used to be part of Eskom. And when Rotec was taken out of Eskom and privatized, there were job losses. And workers suffered in terms of benefits, in terms of salaries. For us, this is what we see happening with this process.
But here is the point. And I think the experience of this week says a lot about the problems at Eskom, right? And we will also talk about the speculation around what led to the surprise load shedding or power cuts of Sunday, 3 days after the president announced. You know, I'm sure you've heard Labour is also being blamed for that who knows, Labour may have gone on a go-slow of sorts.
No, we reject that, of course.
But
because, you know, Eskom has a history of actually benefiting
but here's
from
the point I want to make, is that as much as Labour is concerned about job losses, the fact that businesses could not operate means that there are job losses happening at small, medium-sized businesses and even bigger businesses elsewhere in the economy. Bonang, Mohale, your comment.
So I think the first solution to get all of us out of this hole is to address the liquidity crisis. Number 2, we need to address the bloated full-time employees of Eskom. 48,000. It's 27,500 more people than we need for a comparable, globally competitive utility of that size and indeed magnitude. Number 3, we need to ensure that we look at the supply chain, because that's where the bribery, stealing and cheating and the corruption has set in. When something costs 2 rand, why pay 200 rand for it? Lastly, I think we need to be very explicit about those people that have stolen money at Eskom so that there's final accountability. The president said this is going to be a country of laws, not of men. There must be some people that end up in jail.
Well, just a brief comment to what Bonang has just said, okay, regarding the immediate solutions. What do you think we need to do?
Well, absolutely, we agree that that those who have stolen must be taken to book. We haven't seen that really happening at Eskom. We haven't really seen an aggressive attempt to recover every cent that has been looted for more than 2 decades. But you have to do much more than that. For example, why are we not discussing the fact that government doesn't want to cancel the IPP project? I mean, you're a business person. Anywhere in business have you heard of a model where a person pays more for a product, in the case of electricity, and then sells it to the market at less than what they paid for?
Definitely.
This is something that is collapsing Eskom. Our government refuses to step in because you've got political elites who are benefiting from the IPP project, and yet we want to entertain job losses. This is something that we reject.
Let's pause right there. I'll pick up on the issue in a short while as we continue our conversation. And my guests, Bonang Mohale from BLSA and from NUMSA, Pagamile Hlubi Majola from NUMSA, the union, obviously feeling very strongly there. This is your conversation as well. Share your thoughts with us on Twitter. The hashtag is the Modise Network. Don't go away.